This is a presentation of National Streaming Sports. Over 20 podcasters, 70 weekly shows, and a 3.4-star rating on Roku TV. The Big Football Show every Sunday at 8 a.m. on Roku at 4 p.m. All right, so good morning, everyone, as the Big Football Show here starts out. And, of course, we're all on Roku channel right now for a little bit. We'll also be on YouTube. We'll be on our Instagram and also on the Huddle Sports Network, at least for the first hour. How are you doing, everybody, today? And how's everybody doing out there in viewership land? So, guys, how you doing?
Doing well. Hope you are too.
Excellent.
All right, Sonia, I see is traveling on her way back from a personal thing, and she'll be back on her laptop soon and have all her bells and whistles and everything going on there. So let's start with the biggest NFL news update here as the two young quarterbacks, Jordan Love and Tua, get paid. Jordan Love ends up with a $200 million contract, as much as Burrows and as much as Trevor Lawrence. It's $155 million guaranteed. Tua gets a 4-year, $212 million contract, but $167 million guarantee. So a little bit more guarantee for Tua. I want to know what you guys think first of the signings, starting with Jack. What do you think about these two signings by both teams?
They're decent signings. It's viable. I know people are going to say, well, what's Jordan Love's body of work? But Jordan Love's been put through the ringer with the Packers. Let's be honest about it. He sat behind Aaron Rodgers for 3 years. Then they weren't really willing to commit to him once Rodgers left to go to the Jets. So they gave him a 1-year deal at fairly low starting quarterback money. So he really came on the second half of last year. And the Packers had a big decision. They had 4 years invested in him, that they believe he was the real thing. Maybe they weren't sure, but they were trending towards that direction because of the way he finished the year last year. And it's a little bit of a gamble, a big gamble on the Packers' part. But I think it's a good gamble because in all likelihood, Jordan Love is going to be their franchise quarterback for years and years. They see him in practice every day. We just see him during the games. So they have a pretty good idea what they have in Jordan Love. So they were willing to make that investment. As far as Tua goes, the only question whether Tua could stay healthy or not. Certainly he could deliver. He's a top-of-the-line quarterback. Last year was kind of like a probation year for him. He stayed healthy for the year. And all in all, he had a good year. You know, the Dolphins haven't taken the next step, but that's as a collective unit. And if not Tua, who else, logically?
And that's what I wanted to get to, Sonia. I mean, right now, quarterbacks and certain players on certain teams pretty much have the teams, they're holding them hostage, right? I mean, they have no backup plans. If you don't sign Jordan Love to that big contract, you don't sign Tua to the big contract, what else are you going to do?
Yeah, I think we are literally, to everyone that's a quarterback right now, this is a very advantageous market for them because they're able to set higher pay requirements based on the need of the teams because the teams have not implemented backup plans. And unfortunately, for the teams, they're going to be coughing up money for, in my opinion, unproven quarterbacks. Now, even though Jordan Love did get to the postseason last season, Tua Tagovailoa just did not look like he did when the seasons first began with the Dolphins. Miami started out extremely hot. They became mediocre very quick and then a dismal roar at the very end of the season. I honestly do not think he should have been paid more than Jordan Love. Like Jack pointed out, Jordan Love has sat at the feet of Aaron Rodgers and implemented the Green Bay way in my phrasing for the last 3 seasons. And he's the more solid quarterback, in my opinion, that has been not only exposed to the NFL, but has also been tried and true in the postseason. I'm not that certain that Miami should have coughed up as many coins for Tua as they did. But as they say, we will have to wait and see because the writing is already on the wall. Quarterbacks are getting paid, especially in situations that there's no backup plan to try to go forward. So we'll just have to see.
So I proposed this idea to Jack on Wednesday and to everybody on the National Professional Sports show that we do. If I'm a GM in the NFL right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hire the best quarterback coach there is. I'll pay him $5 million a year. I don't care. And every 2 years, whether it be the first, second, or third round, I'm drafting a quarterback with a lot of potential. And I'm going to have this guy work with him all year. I'm gonna have him going over everything from reads to technique to anything that you can think of to make this quarterback a starting quarterback. And when we get to the point when my quarterback wants 50, 60, 70 million dollars a year, and especially in the case of Jordan Love and Tua has not really proven that he's a Joe Burrows or a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen or even a Dak Prescott, in my opinion, I'm going to say, hey, listen, I ain't paying 50, 60, 70 million dollars a year. It ain't happening. Now, either we're going to negotiate, we're going to negotiate a contract that is going to eat at my team, or you can go. And I'm going to take that rookie quarterback that's now 2-year vet in practice, in camp, and I'm going to sign him. I'm going to play out his rookie deal, and we'll see what he does. But every 2 years, James, this is what I'm going to do, because I'm not going to have a quarterback eat up 20, 25% of my salary. What do you think about that?
I mean, that sounds good in theory. What you're saying, I like the idea of that, to have a plan in place so that you can have a system set up to develop a lot better than like in baseball. You guys, develop a lot of players better in the league, in the like AAA and AA. But I don't paying a guy like you said $5 million a year, quarterbacks coach. What happens when you have that great developer in the quarterbacks coach when he wants to move up to go to offensive coordinator to another team or go to coach another team? Then you're pretty much in the same boat you were in before. So I don't know if that's the answer. I just know that you just have to be able to develop. Yes, I agree. While I don't think it's quite the answer to keep somebody there, because you're probably not going to keep a guy there to like a great coach to develop players. You do have to be able to develop talent, draft and scout, and that's what NFL teams do. It just doesn't always work out that way. It just doesn't always work. I mean, look at the situation. I think Green Bay, over their history, has had good luck. They've had good luck. You had 2 Hall of Famers follow each other. I mean, same thing. We could say the same with Joe Montana, Steve Young, that kind of thing. It's hard to keep somebody to have that. It's how lucky you must be to have guys that end up being Hall of Famers back to back, and the trajectory that the quarterback that's there now, Jordan Love, he may be going that same path. We'll see. Time will tell. But I mean, to have a guy like you said sit 3 years, that's an anecdotal situation. That's not the rule. That's not the norm.
Good morning, Keith Engel from TGI Sports. Not in studio today. He's on a mini vacation, I guess, right now, and we're glad to have him in. And Keith, we're going to get to college sports here in a quick second.
Sure.
We look at the Atlanta Falcons. They signed, of course, Kirk Cousins to that 2-year deal. Drafted Penix Jr. If nothing happens with Kirk Cousins this year, if the Atlanta Falcons don't make the playoffs and make a significant run in these next 2 years, you got your quarterback there. I guarantee you the Atlanta Falcons are not going to offer, if they don't take, if Kirk Cousins doesn't take the Falcons to a deep playoff run, they are not going to offer Kirk Cousins another big contract. You got Penix Jr. behind him. Now, a lot of people don't know whether that's a good or bad move. But I'm not even saying a Penix Jr. I'm talking about a guy that shows potential. And I think that if you have a quarterback like a Penix Jr. behind Kirk Cousins ain't going to – he knows he's not going to get $50, $60 million when this 2 years contract's up. So you may have a little leverage on that guy. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that if you have a franchise quarterback that's starting for you right now that you shouldn't sign him. All I'm saying is that I want backup because I don't know, and I don't think anybody here can honestly tell me, and Keith, you can answer that, if Jordan Love's going to be a great quarterback or not, or if Tua's going to be a great quarterback or not, or if they are franchise quarterbacks. What do you think, Keith?
Agreed. I mean, we're giving these guys huge sums of money before they've really proven they deserve it, I guess. Again, we all know my stance. If somebody's willing to pay you, then, you're worth the money. But I think the owners are heading down a dangerous path when guys with very little track record are able to just collect $60 million a year. And we don't know what's going to happen with these guys. He could be a flash in the pan. We've seen those types of situations before. So, and franchises are going to set themselves back at least 5 years if they miss, right? So again, the whole thing with the quarterbacks, we talk about the quality of play in the NFL, and I think a lot of it is tied to the fact that quarterbacks make so much money and you have no depth on your team. So you have bad offensive lines to begin with, and then when they get hurt, it gets even worse, obviously. So I think it's a slippery slope to the quality of the overall game.
And I would agree with that. So we got Keith on every Sunday, not only to talk about, there he is. Okay, let's bring him up. I'm going to have Keith talk about college football. I got some questions for Keith about that. And let's see if I can do this without making a total mess. Let's see. All right, there we go. I can do it. All right, Keith, we got you front and center with your college football update here. Yes, you are. So, the light is on you from behind you and in front of you right now. So anyway, we got some week one storylines coming up that I want to talk to you about in the upcoming season. Miami versus Florida is going to be an interesting game because, of course, they don't play each other that much. Well, they don't regularly, I should say. And both coaches are coming to the end of their tenure, and both coaches haven't had a great tenure with their teams. Can you see the losing coach here end up maybe being on the hot seat just after this week one first, the first game loss?
They're both on the hot seat before the game even gets played. In my mind, Marco Cristobal came to Miami with great fanfare to his alma mater. And listen, I'm a Miami fan kind of through marriage, but I've become a big Hurricane fan. And they have disappointed year after year. And again, expectations are high. This team's ranked as high as 14th in some polls. There's a lot of people who will pick them to make it to the playoff without much of a track record to back it up. Cameron Ward's coming in for Washington, which helps them. But on the flip side, Florida, I don't think there's a coach on a bigger hot seat than Billy Napier in Florida. He came here from Louisiana, did a great job at Louisiana, but moving from the Sun Belt Conference or wherever they're playing in Louisiana, I think that's where it is, to the SEC is a big jump. And he has not shown that he can handle that jump. And they've got a monster schedule in Florida this year. So Billy Napier's, I think both these guys are on the clock right now.
Another big headline story is Notre Dame and their transfer from Duke. Notre Dame's playing Texas. Their quarterback coming in, transfer Riley Leonard is taking
Riley Leonard, yeah.
And the head coach of Texas A&M, this is his first. That will be his first game there. Mike Elkos. What do you see this Duke transfer really helping out Notre Dame's offense? And what do you think about Texas A&M this year?
As far as Leonard goes, yes, he will be. I think he'd be an immense help to his Notre Dame offense. The problem is he's got to stay in the field. He's been hurt a lot in his career. He got off to a tremendous start last year and Duke did as well. And in fact, Mike Elko, by the way, was his coach at Duke, who's a new coach at Texas A&M. So that's an interesting wrinkle to Texas A&M as well. Riley Leonard, I think Notre Dame, with Riley Leonard healthy, is a top 5 team this year. If he doesn't stay healthy, then they could struggle. They've had some problems on offense. I think Marcus Freeman has done a really good job there, unlike some other people, building something, and I think they're about ready to bear fruit. Mike Elko is a really good coach and has been around the SEC previously, and I think it's a good hire for Texas A&M after the toxic situation that I think Jimbo Fisher left behind there.
You have USC and LSU playing. The last 2 Heisman Trophy winners, of course, came from them 2 schools, and they have the replacements Miller Moss and Garrett Nussmeier, I think is how you pronounce it, under Sunday Night Spotlight. What do you think about these 2 teams? And I don't know if you're aware of how good these quarterbacks are, but this is going to say a lot about how far these 2 teams go this year.
It was USC. I missed the part of it, Mac.
USC versus LSU.
Right.
Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams are now in the NFL, last 2 Heisman Trophy winners. And I was wondering what you thought about the replacement. Go ahead, Keith.
These are tough situations for the quarterbacks and the coaches. The SEC is loaded, as we know, with Texas and Oklahoma coming in and making it worse. You can come over here. What was I saying? So SEC's loaded, obviously. Hang on one second. Say hi. Hi.
Hey,
Hi. This is my co-host this morning.
Okay, good. Well,
So
he'll probably do a better job than Carlos. Go ahead.
far better than Carlos for sure. So Riley Leonard listen, I think USC's in for a rude awakening in the Big Ten, especially this year. The only team I see doing well coming into the Big Ten situation is probably Oregon. I think USC and Riley Leonard is going to be on the clock very quickly if he doesn't get things turned around. I'm sorry. Yeah. Lincoln Riley. I got Riley Leonard on my mind. She's laughing. I don't like USC's chances this year. I think Riley will be on the hot seat. Where was I? So Lincoln will be on the hot seat. Kelly in LSU, not so much, but it's going to be a tough road for LSU. They got other people to replace too. It's not just the quarterback. You got Neighbors, who was a top 5 pick. So tough situation for both these teams. I think they both struggle this year.
Finally, spotlighting Keith here. We'll talk a little
That's
bit.
Carlos now crying in the background. Sorry.
Is that Carlos? It sounds like. Finally, Keith, the Bill Belichick was offered a job last year, or I should say over the offseason here by the 49ers, believe it or not. He was offered anything he wanted, but I think they meant defensive coordinator. I give Shanahan some praise for guts here, hiring Bill, even offering it to him. But Shanahan believes Bill Belichick will be a coach next year, and he has no idea why he's in coaching this year.
I think he will be a kid coach. I don't think him taking a step down to a defensive coordinator position was going to help him in any way get a job next year. If anything, it would hurt him if they had a bad year defensively or didn't improve. I'm a little surprised Shanahan would offer to bring a person with that type of high profile in to work under him. But I think Belichick's making the right move. Keep himself on TV every week, multiple times a week. It's going to be interesting to see what he's got to say about teams as he's looking to get a job next year. I'm not sure how critical he's going to be of people, but it'll be an interesting situation.
Would Belichick take a job this year? Would he get a little antsy? If something opens up, is he anxious? Is he ready to join the fray? We all keep thinking, next season, something's going to open up, one of the plum jobs, the Cowboys, the Giants, or whatever. Would he take something this year, that would open up just because he wants to really get back into it immediately?
Yeah, I mean, you rarely see a coach get fired in midseason and you've got a permanent replacement right away, right? There's usually an interim situation. So him taking a job in the middle of the year, you're saying, I think is unlikely. And I think if he did, he might sit back and let an interim coach and him evaluate the situation that he's got to deal with. I don't think you'll see him on the sideline. I doubt very much he'd take a job during the course of the middle of the season. I think he's going to weigh his options after the year. He's going to look for the best position.
But
We
he
talked
also
about this
knows
the other
the
day.
job might not be there for him next
It may
year.
not.
There wasn't one this year, so why is everyone assuming there's going to be one next year?
Because normally 7 jobs turn over a year, so it's
And
pretty.
he didn't get one this year.
I get it.
He didn't get one.
I get it. That you can't. That's the Falcons' problem for not hiring him. I mean, he was the best qualified guy for that job, and he didn't get it. So
Yeah, I would agree with that. Okay, so the first real topic I want to get into you guys with is Aaron Rodgers. Is he a leader? Now he's a heck of a competitor. He's a top 20 quarterback all time easy. But is he really a leader? When you think about leaders in the NFL, past or present, I mean, Tom Brady, definitely a leader. He's playing in high school with his wide receivers when they're not supposed to be practicing. Ray Lewis with the Baltimore Ravens. Harry Carson with the New York Giants. And today maybe a TJ Watt with Pittsburgh. Of course, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. But Aaron Rodgers seems like a easy going. I'm going to Egypt. I'm not worried about he's a competitor. He's knowledgeable. But is he a leader on that team for the Jets, or do the Jets not have a leader? I'm going to start off with Sonia on that because I haven't heard from her for a little bit here. What do you think, Sonia? Is Aaron Rodgers a true leader of the Jets?
No, I don't think so. I think he is a quarterback that they needed to bring in to basically improve the situation they have or had in the past. I think leaders are leaders on and off the field. They basically try to set the right example, not just with every play they make, but with every decision they make, not necessarily those that carry the ball. As they always say, it's not always about the X's and O's, it's about the Jims and the Joes. So when you think about that, you think about the fact that it's more personal than actually the plays that he's making. Him going to Egypt, him skipping out these practices, his whole standard in the past, even with Green Bay, I never felt like he was specifically a leader. I think every quarterback is not a leader. I think that even though they're supposedly the face of that franchise or what have you, that does not necessarily make them an actual leader of the team. I think that I don't really care for his personality, honestly. I mean, I think that he's pretty arrogant, pretty self-centered. And then when you look at the decisions he makes personally, especially those that include missing mandatory practices, and he says, "Oh, and I have no regret because I already had XYZ plays." Even if he had these things planned, at least show an ounce of compassion to those who have to be there, who have not shown themselves proven on the field. If you're that type of leader, at least be more personable.
So I go to our Jets loyal fan here, and see what he thinks about what Sonia said. Jack, do you agree with Sonia that Aaron Rodgers is not a leader?
I don't agree with that at all. He's a great leader. I mean, who cares what he did in June? The players don't care. You care, Mac. Sonia cares. I don't know about James and Keith. No one gives a darn except maybe the coaches, because it makes them look a little bad because they have to answer these questions. It makes them feel uncomfortable. The players couldn't care less what's happening in June. They built the whole team around Aaron Rodgers. We haven't heard any rumblings of players complaining about Aaron Rodgers. He's taking guys to Vegas with him. He's taking them out to plays in New York. The young guys look up to him, everyone. They geared a roster around Aaron Rodgers. It couldn't be more of a leader than he is. Whether he loses that leadership is going to be determined how he ultimately does on the field. But right now, everyone is still buying all in. Okay, last year he got injured, so they're doing a do-over. The owners, is looking towards Aaron Rodgers as being a leader. Joe Douglas, the GM, like I said, gears the team around him. Robert Saleh never criticizes him. I mean, everyone is still buying into Aaron Rodgers. They know if they're going to make a Super Bowl run, he's the key guy. They're going to rally around him.
I mean, but you just
All right,
said,
so Keith-
excuse me real quick, you just said exactly what I was getting at, Jack. You literally said he makes the coaches look bad because they're having to answer questions about him. What leader makes their coaches look bad?
It's a perception, okay, that Aaron Rodgers is in there, that coaches have to answer questions. Look, it's a long season. It begins in September. Aaron Rodgers needed a little reset about 10 weeks before the season began. No one is going to even remember this come September if they start winning. No one's going to care less. Once the season ends, all we're going to talk about how the team did. They get off to a 1-0 start. They win their first game against the 49ers. No one's going to care about this Egypt thing. But if they lose, of course, and have a poor season, people are going to look for reasons why this or that. But if they have a poor season and Aaron Rodgers plays poorly, he won't be the leader going forward because they're going to have to address the quarterback situation.
So,
Okay.
so Keith, if you bring players to plays and basketball games and stuff like that, it shows you're friendly. It shows you want to get next to players. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I think that's great. But when it comes to setting up things off season, like other players do, or when it's during a game and you're blaming a wide receiver after the game or taking responsibility yourself, which he has done, is that what a leader does? I'm trying to be I'm trying to be neutral as possible. So, Keith, what are your thoughts on, is Aaron Rodgers really a leader there?
No, he's never been a leader ever. You take your guys out for dinner, bowling, whatever, salsa dancing, whatever it is. That's great. I do it with my people, but that isn't leading them in their profession. It's building a bond. I get that, and that's part of it. But again, we don't think that this mini camp meant anything where he went to Scotland or whatever the hell he went. There are some players, I guarantee you, who will not speak up. They're going to say, why am I here working my butt off and that guy's in Scotland? And Robert Saleh's not going to criticize Aaron Rodgers ever. Job security depends on Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers in his history has shown he's not a leader. When he complained in Green Bay for years about not getting weapons, but he took his money and ran to the bank every week with his paycheck, never gave a nickel back. That's what leaders do. Sacrifice. Leaders sacrifice. When things get tough, they look to them. You're talking about them winning, they'll forget. Sure, if they go 17-0, nobody's going to remember this. That's not happening.
Rodgers gave back significant money to the Jets in the offseason so they can improve their team. That's what
okay. So he finally did it after 20 years. Good job.
Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb came from Green Bay to the Jets just so they could join their former teammate Rodgers as a new Jet. Devontae Adams would love to play with Rodgers. He's angling towards that reunion because that's leadership.
Yeah, Devontae Adams loves Aaron Rodgers because he gets him the football. Again, there's a critical role there that he gets something playing with Aaron Rodgers. None of that makes Aaron Rodgers a leader. He's a great player. And he gets the job done. Is he a leader? I'm going to say no.
James, let's hear your input on this. Do you agree more with Keith and Sonia or with Jack?
I'm in between. I mean, I've seen.
Wait. We can't always be in between. Let's hear your opinion.
I'm not always in between. I would typically be one side or the other, but Rodgers he's got great traits. I think he has good traits, some traits to be a good leader. I think he's decent enough to be. He's not the great leader. I think he's a good leader. I think he's good enough to get a team where they need to be. And the talent wise, I think I don't know if he's good enough as a leader to be someone consider if he's not winning. Because you have guys that are great leaders and they're on bad teams, but people they have the admiration of their peers. their subordinates, their leaders, our fans, everybody. But
Hey, she's
I don't know
okay.
if Aaron
She can
Rodgers will have that if he's not winning. He's not
see,
winning because
let me tell you what I'm talking about. All right, Byron Williams, who was on the network with us, wide receiver for the New York Giants. Byron Williams catches the ball out of bounds, goes out of bounds, starts celebrating. He goes back to the sideline. Harry Carson steps to him, linebacker for the Giants, and says, "We don't do that here.
That's a leader.
That's not how we act here." All right. A leader in the clubhouse is somebody who is not only the go-between between the coach and the players, but he enforces what the coach says. All right. If Mike Tomlin says to the players, "You're going to do it this way," and they don't do it that way, TJ Watt steps to him and says, "Listen, this is the way it is here." This is what I mean by a leader.
Yeah.
And I'm not again. Aaron Rodgers is a competitor. There's no doubt about it. He wants to win. But is he that guy? I mean, is he that guy for the Jets?
I'll end with one word. I gotta jump, so I'll say no, he's not. And James, don't be afraid of that picture you saw of a young Jack in a boxing ring. You can disagree with it.
All right, Keith. Thanks
I'm
for
gonna
stopping
jump.
in. So, all right, so this is what I mean, guys, about a leader, and it's not just taking guys out for dinner. It's enforcing things as being part of that team. And all the good teams, you can have all the talent you want. Talent alone doesn't win Super Bowls, doesn't win championships. It's chemistry. It's the locker room and the culture. I could argue that San Francisco overall had a more talented team last year than the Kansas City Chiefs, and I might be right. Overall, player for player, probably had more talent. But the Chiefs' culture there, Patrick Mahomes, maybe Chris Jones. They know Kelsey to an extent. These guys know what it's like to have that culture there. And maybe the 49ers don't. Maybe they don't. I don't know. So that's what I was meaning by that. So anyway, whether or not you believe it or not, again, Aaron Rodgers is a great competitor. There's no doubt about that, and a great quarterback. So we got Sonia back in her studio here. Hey, Sonia, how you doing? Off the road and in her studio. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the Arizona Cardinals. I read an article. They're excited about Kyle Murray this year. Not only is he healthy, but he seems to be into it. He seems to be preparing more. If you remember, there was a clause put in his contract a couple of years ago. They removed it eventually, that he had to have so much study time during the playbook and everything. That was in the clause of his contract. So he got that. Everybody says, well, he's immature, blah blah. So they're saying now that he's mature. You see the Cardinals defense last year with their new head coach. They were playing like all out. I mean, they were playing everybody tough. They got of course Marvin Harris Jr. there. What do you guys think about the Cardinals? Could they be a surprise team this year, Jack? Could the Arizona Cardinals jump up out of nowhere like the Houston Texans did last year, and all of a sudden they're in second place?
I think they can conceivably make a playoff run, and they are going to improve. Going into last season, they were considered arguably the worst team in the NFL, and they lost most of their games early on, but they were competitive, very competitive. They even upset the Cowboys in one game. And then they get Kyler Murray back, who was out, till about midway in the season, close to it. And they went like 3-5 with Kyler Murray, the rest of the way. And now they got Marvin Harrison Jr. Gannon is coaching for the second year in a row, obviously knows the personnel better. Things are starting to gel. I mean, I could very easily see them winning a few more games and contending for playoff position. Yes.
What do you think, Sonia? Do you think that maybe this is a turnaround for Kyle Murray, and we start looking at him differently? That maybe he is more mature. I mean, it does take some players longer. They gave him a lot of money. Does he start paying off this year for him?
So first of all, when they implemented he had to study the playbook, I was just kind of baffled about that. But then I was like, hey, when they're paying you It's just with any employer, whatever they ask of you or require of you or request of you, if you want to continue to be employed by them, you do it. So he did have a lack of maturity. I think that not necessarily studying the playbook itself, but just being more humbled on and off the field along with studying the playbook. We definitely have to see an improved Kyler Murray. I don't know if I'm ready yet to say that they're going to be that sneaky good team because of the division that they're in, but I do know that we will see a marked improvement in that team. I think if I remember correctly, they also beat the Eagles last year. I think I remember that, but I know that they won some games that people were actually shocked that they won last season. So this season, they are very good to, in my opinion, make a solid playoff push, but not necessarily, like I say, be that team that actually takes over the entire division.
So, with that being said, I'll go to James here. There were surprise teams last year, especially the Houston Texans. Nobody expected first-year CJ Stroud, new head coach. Nobody thought they'd make their run. You could throw in maybe the Cleveland Browns after Watson got hurt. You could probably throw in Green Bay after the rough start, maybe even the Rams. A lot of people were surprised that they made the playoffs. Do you have a surprise team or teams this year that you think might be that team that comes out of nowhere?
Yeah, I think the Raiders are a team that comes out of nowhere. I like their picks that they made offensively, both with 2 first-round tight ends, and I love their coach now, and I think he's hard-nosed. I think he's going to make sure his team is disciplined, and they're going to have a really good defense. They made some moves to pick up some people defensively as well. I just think the question mark is Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew, whether or not either one of these guys can just keep the ship steady. But I think the Raiders are my surprise team for this year to at least win more games and potentially contend for a playoff spot.
And by the way, Tom Coughlin is an advisor this year to the LA Raiders, Las Vegas Raiders. Jack, do you have a surprise?
Get a new quarterback. I mean, what's an advisor here? I mean, what's he going to tell him? They have a really good defense. The Raiders really, really good. But Devontae Adams, does he have a quarterback to throw him the ball? Brock Bowers is going to have a really good rookie season. But I don't look at the Raiders as being a force.
Well, what is your surprise team or teams this year, Jack?
A surprise team, a team that could come up out of nowhere. You mentioned Arizona as a possibility. I think maybe the Washington Commanders. The Commanders might shock the heck out of us and actually win the division. You heard me, win the division. Because when you consider how poorly the Eagles ended last season, they fell apart completely over the last few games. And in the playoffs, the effort wasn't there. I mean, the wheels fell off. Who says that the Eagles are going to rebound this year? They lost some veteran leadership. I know they made some new additions, but who knows what Philadelphia Eagle team's going to show up? They might be mediocre. They might be very good. And if they're mediocre, Washington could leap ahead of them. In Dallas, they didn't make any impact moves. And with all the controversy surrounding the team with the unsigned players, maybe they're ready to take a step back. And Washington, there's a lot of energy in that building with Jaden Daniels, a lot of energy. The Commanders might be last year's Houston Texans, who surprised everyone with the year they had. They might be the team this year to take the big leap up and actually win the Eastern NFC East.
I don't know where that's coming from, Jack. I have no idea. I mean, the Washington Commanders. I don't know. I mean, I don't see it.
Mac, I told you this about the Detroit Lions a couple of years ago. Mac, I told you that the Detroit Lions, and you laughed at me the same way.
Yes. I didn't laugh this year. This year I didn't laugh.
Well, the
but
Lions
anyway,
obviously, have arrived. I mean, I don't know how good they're going to be this year, whether they're going to take a step back, but they came close to making the Super Bowl.
They did. But you predicted that like a year before it happened, just to let everybody know. Sonia, who's your surprise team or teams this year?
So I know we need to keep an eye on Chicago. They've been kind of like under the radar, just a little bit below. Chicago's looking like a good team on both the offense and the defense. So whenever you have a team that looks good on both sides and you're just missing that piece, kind of like the situation in Houston with CJ Stroud, I think Caleb Williams will be the answer to that specific franchise. I'm not saying Chicago will win the division. The NFC North is extremely talented this year. I think that they will be showing marked improvement. They will definitely make a playoff run. Another team that would be a surprise, I guess. I don't know, because some people are kind of predicting this one, would be Jim Harbaugh's return to the NFL. I see them solidly, him and his crew, turning that franchise around, going solidly into the playoffs. They may actually win their division, believe it or not, with him, especially with his coaching experience. And
wait a minute. Wait 1 second. Did you say that they would win the division, or they might?
Yeah.
Did you say?
I mean, you think
what?
they could beat out Kansas City?
Yeah.
And I mean, listen, them and the Raiders, they have the Raiders, Denver, and Kansas City.
I'm not sold on Kansas. Kansas looked mediocre during the year. They only, in my opinion, Kansas did not look the same throughout the year that they did in the postseason as we've seen Kansas in the past. We had a whole lot of stuff with the what's that girl named Taylor Swift situation. It was a lot of drop passes that were right there with Travis Kelce.
Definitely.
They've had a lot of issues on and off the field with Rashid Rice. I mean, it continues on and on and on. So Kansas could be.
I'm sure the players are distracted over Taylor Swift. They're very distracted.
Sonia, they did have problems during the season, but who won the Super Bowl?
Sonia.
Who won the Super Bowl?
I'm still saying they could be upset. They could be upset.
Of course. But the Chargers, you're putting all your faith in Jim Harbaugh. That he's going to be such a great coach that he's going to do something like a Vince Lombardi did, a Bill Parcells when he first joins a team, elevate a loser into a big-time winner.
So you already saying it's happened before, so it can happen again.
It took Jim Harbaugh years to get there with Michigan to the national championship.
Well, this isn't Michigan
He's kind of in a
anymore.
rebuilding year this year.
Well, we'll see. You guys save the clip because I'm saying
I definitely will, Sonia.
And let me go ahead and put it out there before y'all get too far down the road. The Carolina Panthers, okay? I'm gonna go ahead. I know y'all been waiting on it. We are the surprise team as well because we're gonna win more than 2 games, okay?
You're gonna double
Matt, hit the Twilight Zone.
Double their win total.
We're gonna win more than 2 games. That's all I said. We might win 3, we might win 4, but it'll be more than 2.
That's not really a surprise team. San Diego winning the division
is in reverse. The surprise team we think of who's going to win a lot more than before, who's going to lose a lot more. Can we call that a surprise team?
Oh, who's going to lose a lot more?
We could, but we're not going to. Wait a minute. The surprise teams we're talking about is winning because
yeah, of course.
Okay, so anyways, I'll give you a 2. I think, and I'm going to surprise Jack with this one. I think Minnesota Vikings are going to finish in 3rd place, and they might get a wild card. I think they're better than the Chicago Bears, to be honest with you, because of the rookie quarterback. That's all. We'll see what.
Whoa. Are you saying they'll do it with J.J. McCarthy?
I'm saying with Sam Darnold as their starting
quarterback.
Former Panthers.
I think Sam Darnold's having a good season. That might be a surprise team.
Oh my gosh!
I'm just taking a guess, right?
The Packers.
Right,
Jack,
Aaron Jones,
and they got you should press the Twilight Zone music for yourself.
And they got some great wide receivers. Well, when you say San Diego Chargers are going to win the West Division, that is just nuts. But anyway, that's someone's opinion. Anyway, and in the AFC, I think the Colts. I think Richardson and the Colts will get a wild card. They'll get a wild card.
You can see that.
So that's
how good do you think Anthony Richardson is? I just don't think he's that good. He's
I
good.
like him.
That's why he runs
like-
the ball so much.
I like him and the running back together. They're going to concentrate on the run, and they got a couple nice receivers, Jack. And I think the Colts defense played well enough last year. They were 8-9, I think, without Richardson. So I think they have a chance.
If I'm not mistaken. No.
I think Richardson's a talent as well. I think his injury history, even in college, he was always injured. So
Right.
I think
Right.
more so it's his Achilles heel, no pun intended.
No doubt.
Yeah.
He's got to learn to slide or get out of bounds, but maybe that's not his style. Maybe he's a Josh Allen. Maybe he's a Jackson, that Lamar Jackson that just is going to compete for every yard. So we'll see. I mean, that's just a surprise team that could make the playoffs. I'm not predicting them to win the division, okay, or the Vikings to win the division. Oh my God. Anyway, Sonia, you make me laugh. Anyways, we're gonna stop right here. Take a quick break. I've got a Just Ask Jack question coming up, and I'll share it because I know Jack won't cheat. And the other two here, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if James or Sonia will cheat, but we're gonna let Jack go first, coming out of this, and we're gonna just ask Jack this trivia question, and we'll see whether he can after the break if he gets it right or not. So let's see. The trivia question is: did you see that real quick?
The 37 Chicago Bears. What do I know about the 1937 Chicago Bears? I'm going to get it wrong.
I messed up already. I messed up. I thank you, Sonia. So don't believe me on the surprise teams. Believe Sonia because I don't know what the hell I'm doing there. I will come up with another trivia question for Jack. In the meantime, we're gonna go to a quick break here. We'll be right. Yes, they have the most Hall of Famers in the NFL in the Hall of Fame, and that's the question I was going to ask you, Jack.
That's a question I would have gotten wrong.
All right. Well, there you go. So we'll see if we can get another trivia question during the break. We'll be right back on the Big Football Show.
This is a Huddle Sports Network broadcast. You can find us on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Facebook, and of course YouTube. Get all your NFL news here first.
Song goes, oh.
The Monday show, live show lineup on our Roku channel. Mac and Jack Sports at 8 a.m. Eastern. Coffee and Sports at 9 a.m. Eastern. 10 a.m. Mac and Jack Sports. At 11 a.m. Ken and Ken in the morning. At 12 p.m. Coast to Coast. At 2 p.m. The Big Football Show. At 4 p.m. Snake Sports. At 6 p.m., The Man Cave. At 7 p.m., Glove Fist. At 8 p.m. Eastern, Sports Scope. At 9 p.m. Eastern, Start Spreading the News. To get the National Streaming Sports channel on your Roku TV, channel search National Streaming Sports. There's the channel search in Roku. There's our logo right on the right, NESSP. Tap on the logo and it will add to your TV, the channel to your TV. On your laptop, tablet, and mobile phone, Download the free Roku app and channel search just like above. If you don't have Roku TV, you have to order a Roku device from the Roku store, hook it up to your smart TV, and bang, you have Roku TV. Again, channel search, National Streaming Sports, click on our NESSP logo, and add the channel. After adding the Roku channel, National Streaming Sports, this is our Roku site. You can click on the live stream to see what show is playing, or go to the VOD category, weekly schedule, click on the day, and it will give you all the shows scheduled for that day.
Hello, this is Paul Semendinger, award-winning author and the host of the Dr. Sem Yankee Show and the Start Spreading the News podcast. And you are watching The Big Football Show, the very best football show in the entire world. And it's here on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. Enjoy.
All right.
We're going to ask Jack a trivia question right now. I think he's hiding. I don't know where the heck he went. But anyway, let's bring Jack back up.
He's looking up
And,
the answer.
I was there the whole
No.
time. I was here early. All of you were being delayed, so I wasn't going to hang around by
Yes,
myself.
yes, you were. So anyway, I saw an empty chair, so I wasn't sure if Jack went to, but I didn't tell him a trivia question. So, Jack, here's a NFL trivia question for you. Who is the youngest quarterback ever to win an NFL Super Bowl?
Oh man, oh man, oh man. I'm you know what I'm doing now? I'm trying to buy time because I'm thinking from Super Bowl one and I'm scanning, all the way upwards. It would have to be, I guess, Tom Brady would be my thought. He came in and replaced, Drew Bledsoe. That would be my thought.
Okay, I'm going to tell you right now that's the incorrect answer. Sonia or James, would you like to take a shot at it?
I think it's Brett Favre.
Brett Favre. That is also incorrect. James, do you have an answer for us?
I do not. I can't. Tom Brady is my.
Tom Brady was your answer?
Well,
the youngest quarterback
that's when,
ever to win the
his first
MVP.
Super Bowl. I mean,
Benjamin.
if I have to think a little more, who would have
It was
won
Big Ben.
a Bowl?
It's Big Ben Roethlisberger, Jack. The answer's
Ben
up on the screen.
Roethlisberger.
Yes, you got it after I said it. So.
See, I know he went to
Anyway,
an AFC
Jack
championship.
is 0 for 2. And
Brady was probably the second youngest.
yes, he did. To go to the Super Bowl, you have to go to the championship.
I'm saying
might have.
Roethlisberger
He might have.
went to
I mean,
in his rookie season went to the AFC championship, but he lost. They didn't get to the Super Bowl. I'm trying to think, how old was he when he won?
And how old was
I
Brady
don't have
when
an
they won
answer
the
for you right
Super
now,
Bowl?
How old he was, but he is the youngest.
That's weird. I'll be honest with you.
Don't know.
You
Yes.
sure
I'll give you the
Roethlisberger
choices
was
that they
younger
gave.
Brady?
So
Roethlisberger
the
was
other possible answers would have been Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, or Russell Wilson. Ben Roethlisberger was younger. So there you go. So
How
Tom Brady
old
was in
was
the
he?
conversation.
Well, how old? What
Do you
was
want me
the
to
age
look
there?
that up
You don't
right
know
now?
The age, you just
Okay.
Come on.
I'll just look.
Okay, I got the producer working on it.
You
I
might-
hate it when Jack is Jack. This is from a right side. He always questions
No,
my
I'm
sources.
not saying you're wrong. I just want to know the age. How old was Roethlisberger? How old was Brady
Okay,
when they won their first
we're
Super Bowl?
gonna get
Okay,
lots
it
of
says Roethlisberger was 23 years old, 340 days. So right before his 24th birthday.
How old was Brady?
I don't know. I didn't get
I'm
that
looking at
far.
the 10
that's what I
youngest.
want to know. I mean,
I just gave you
Well,
Roethlisberger.
we're going to find out. We're going to find it out. We're going to find out how old Brady was, because this way it will change the answer, I guess.
yeah, I mean,
Roethlisberger
Anyway.
was 23,
I
350
know you
days.
said that, Sonia. How old?
I
was
want to give it to
Brady?
James because he's looking.
So as our crack staff looks up this, folks, we're gonna get to.
It's taking y'all too long. Let me look at
He
it.
was 24 years old. So Rosenberger beat him by days,
Rutherford. Okay, by what, about 4 or 5 months or whatever.
something like that. So
Yeah,
anyway,
okay.
so Brady, you got the answer to both. Rosenberger was 23 and something old, and Brady was 24. So there you go.
It was. Okay.
Yes. All right. So we got that out of the way. As always, a fun thing to do, the trivia question. We'll have that for you every week. So let's give you the NFL Hard Knocks update. Of course, right now they're with the Giants. They're showing behind the scenes. I don't think any other team will do this. I swear to God. It makes the front office look terrible as you're watching every movement that happens behind the scenes. The Bears will have their training camp on Hard Knocks this year. So we talked a lot about Saquon Barkley. We'll talk about some of the things the Giants did do as far as signings besides letting go of Saquon Barkley. They did pick up offensive guard John Runyon from the Green Bay Packers, offensive tackle from the Raiders, Jermaine Elmore. They also got Brian Burns, as we discussed, as a defensive end. And, of course, they got a lot of other players to help fill Saquon Barkley's position, which really can't, right? So they did also talk about the draft. They showed the wheeling and dealing, how they did try to move up to third. They talked to the Patriots about whether they would consider, moving that pick and moving down the Giants to number 6. The Patriots at the end said no, they weren't going to do. They were going to stand pat. And it showed that then talking to the three best receivers in the draft, they had their personal meetings with them, and they all came to this decision they were going to go get Malik Neighbors. That's where it stopped. We know what happened. So that was their thought process. The thing I want to talk about Saquon, who was there, by the way, at Penn State when the Giants were when they were scouting Theo from Penn State, the tight end there, and they did end up drafting him. Saquon was there, and they looked kind of uncomfortable in the beginning, right? Because Saquon did leave to go with the Eagles, but a scout did go and talk to him, and they did carry on a conversation. The thing I want to ask you guys, and by watching this, I'm doing it for the show because I don't really follow Hard Knocks that much, but I am for the show this year, and I probably will every year. Joe Shine did not look like, and correct me if I'm saying this wrong, verbally, non-verbally, he never looked like he was really interested in signing Saquon Barkley. I think he was predetermined before the year that he wasn't going to franchise him, and that if Saquon wasn't going to sign for what the offer was, they were moving on. You saw John Mara coming back and forth. He was concerned about losing Saquon. I don't think Joe Shine was. And I don't know if you guys have watched it or not, but it just doesn't look like it was, Jack.
I watched it, and why is the Giant owner John Mara given a pass? Because he's a nice guy, because he's quiet. We get on Jerry Jones all the time for every little thing. Why does John Mara get a pass? He's the boss. He's the owner. He could have made it clear. He was so disappointed about losing Saquon Barkley because he's the Giants' most popular player, and he's arguably the most productive player, at least on offense. He could have said to the GM, Joe Shine, I want you to sign Saquon Barkley, or you tell any coach when you're the owner, I'm very rarely going to interfere, very rarely. But if I ever do so and things don't work out, it's on me. It's not on you. He could have sat Joe Shine and Brian DeBall down and said, look, I want you to re-sign Saquon Barkley. Do whatever it takes within reason to get him signed. If it doesn't work out, my fault if the team doesn't do well. It's, I'll take the responsibility for it. That's about his only move he could have made. He said, otherwise, you decide who to draft. You decide what other personnel moves you want to make. But I want Saquon Barkley to be a career Giant. Understand, Joe Shine may have pushed back a little, but he wasn't going to push back that much. You're the owner. I'm telling you what you have to do in this situation. Understand? But he doesn't do it. He's taking orders from Joe Shine, basically, giving him a free ticket to do whatever he wants. John Mara should get blamed. If Saquon Barkley turns out to be extremely productive for the Eagles and the Giants are hurting in the running back position, blame John Mara first and foremost, because he had the power to get this done, and he didn't.
The pushback on that, Sonia, is that you hire a GM for a reason. You're paying him money, scouting, decisions to be made, and if this is a very big decision, and I know, listen, the owner can say and do what he wants. You know that by being a Carolina Panther fan, right? If he wants to step in and say, this is the way it is. And it backfired on him, right? I mean, it backfired on the Carolina owner over the past couple years here. But should Mara have said that, or is that why you pay your GM?
I mean, you kind of like hit the nail on the head especially when you make the comparison with the Panthers. Like, it's gonna backfire. He should not have. I feel like at the end of the day, someone needs to give an account for the decisions that are made. Just like Jack was speaking about, you hire this GM, they're supposed to be the person that is the scouting and what have you, like you said, Mac, as far as getting talent. Then you go out there and you supersede as an owner that decision, then you should be, the person has to, as they say, carry the weight of that bad decision. Because at the end of the day, Saquon went to a division rival. It's going to be even worse for you guys because he went to a freaking rival of y'all's. And so if he goes out there and balls out, it's going to be like, what fest, like the S word fest. Because it's like, it's one thing like, okay, they got rid of McCaffrey. They got rid of DJ Moore in Carolina for Chicago and San Francisco. Both of them are NFC contenders, but they're not NFC South contenders. So the odds of us meeting them, we would have had to be like on a whole different tier of play to even see those two teams in the postseason, if that. But in you guys' case, you have to play them twice a year. He's going to be playing with a chip on his shoulder, to say the least. And that team was already insufferable as far as you guys go in your rivalry anyway. So he's going to have to carry that. I actually think that's exactly what's going to happen. Saquon's going to go down there and ball all the way out. And Giants fans and true Giants folks that really like roll with you guys, even from management perspective, are going to be sick to their guts. Jack is muted. Perfect.
Jack, unmute yourself.
Sonia, it's more than a football decision here. More than that, this is the face of your franchise, your most popular player that loves being a Giant, who lives in the area.
Yes.
He lives in the area. He's a homegrown product.
I forgot about that.
He'll do things for the community when his playing days are over-representing the Giants. He's a Giant true and true. And they move on from him, Joe Shine. Because they don't want to fit him in this and that. And he's not getting, you're not going to be paying him that much money. The Eagles are only giving him $26 million guaranteed. Think of it.
That's why he's going to have that chip on his shoulder, because he did not want to be traded. He didn't want to go from the Giants.
No matter where he would have went to, going to the Eagles makes it worse. Saquon Barkley, you want him to go into the Hall of Fame as a Giant. You want him to continue his career. He's a legacy player. Let me say, owners I don't want to hear about owners meddling if they get involved once in a while. take, for example, the New York Yankees. Brian Cashman is a powerful GM. He's been in that position forever. But Hal Steinbrenner, the owner, overrules him once in a while. He overruled him to give Aaron Judge $40 million a year. He overruled him years ago to sign Jorge Posada, when he was a free agent, to sign A-Rod. Once in a while, you're the owner. You have the right to do it. It's your team. David Tepione at Carolina, he's a meddler. That's another matter.
Yeah.
But don't meddle in the draft. I understand. Leave the draft alone. Leave virtually everything alone to your GM. Let them do their job with their staff. But once in a while, you're entitled to step in regards to a legacy player on your team. If that team player's been on the team for so many years, you want him to continue on that team, especially when they're still productive.
Yeah, I forgot about him being a Giant, like through and through like that.
All right,
Yes.
James, you want because I got a whole lot of stuff to come back with Jack about.
Pretty much, Jack said everything that I was going to say. Just make it, if you're an owner, make an executive decision and keep a guy like this, because he's a guy that should retire from your team. You don't get many players like that. When you get a player like that, generational, you want to keep a guy and let him retire. That's pretty much what I was going to say. And Jack,
Well,
pretty much.
let me ask you a question. How many years has Saquon been with the Giants?
6 years.
6 years. Out of those 6 years, how many seasons did he play completely?
Well, that's any player. Has he been? Wait,
it's not. Wait a minute.
Player.
Jack, you just said that he's a legacy player, like you're comparing him to Lawrence Taylor or Harry Carson. He's not. Secondly, he's not a Hall of Famer. He would, if he retired today, he's not going to Hall of Fame.
Playing, he's not a
If he keeps playing and keeps getting hurt, he still will not be a Hall of Famer. He rushed for 962 yards last year. He didn't run for 1,400 or 2,000. He ran for 962 yards last year.
Because they were keen.
Now wait a minute.
He had no other running back.
Well, a lot of it was because he was playing injured, and that's for a part of the season. The point I'm making here is you're saying now there's no doubt that Saquon was a leader of that team because they don't have a quarterback. There's no doubt that he is the best player on offense because they didn't have a great receiver or a great quarterback. There's no doubt.
Most popular player on the team,
and the most popular because the rest of their guys on offense, aren't that good yet. The offensive line is not that good. So you're saying this guy's great because he's on a bad team, and he's the only player. That doesn't make him a legacy player. That makes him a very good player on a bad team.
Legacy player goes outside the field.
I'm saying you're going too far. I wanted to keep Saquon Barkley. I think he's a weapon. I agree with that, and he's a good leader in the locker room. I agree with that. But let's not make this guy Jim Brown. Let's not make him Christian McCaffrey.
We're talking about what a guy means to the community outside of the field. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they signed their receiver, Mike Evans.
No.
They re-upped with him because they know what he meant to the community of Tampa Bay.
So you're gonna sign a guy to a high contract, one of the higher contracts as a running back, one of the higher contracts. I think it's second to Christian McCaffrey. You're gonna sign him because he goes out in the community and does things. So that's gonna be your reason.
That contributes it to it. If he's a great player who's been there, well, he's better than anyone the Giants have on offense right now.
But we have a bad team, Jack. That doesn't make him a legacy player for the Giants. He's the face of the franchise because we got nobody else. We got no one else. Who else do we got? Who would be our franchise, the face of the Giants in the past 5-6 years? Nobody.
They'll have no one, but they have Saquon Barkley's the face.
I understand that, Jack. I understand that, but that doesn't make the Giants go to the Super Bowl. That doesn't make them go to the championship game. Saquon Barkley would have been a big piece if the Giants improved. How long is it going to take the Giants to improve? 2 years, 3 years. Is Saquon Barkley going to be effective for those 2-3 years? I don't know.
Do you think?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Do you think he when he retires, he's a Giants Hall of Famer?
No. If he retired right now, no. Hell no.
No, I mean not the NFL Hall of Fame, but locally for the team.
No.
You
You're
don't
gonna put him up there.
really?
You're gonna put him up there with players. Ron Johnson is just as good as Saquon Barkley was.
No,
In his
Ron
3 years,
Johnson
in his 3 years
wasn't
with
as
the
good
Giants.
as Saquon
Now,
Barkley.
Giants had a terrible, worst team than now in the 70s. Ron Johnson was the first one to run 1,000 yards back to back. I don't think Saquon Barkley has done that. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. Saquon and Ron Johnson had hands out of the backfield too, but he was a very good player, a very good player on a very bad team. So I loved Ron Johnson. Is he a Giant Hall of Fame? No. Lawrence Taylor, Kerry Carson, Phil Simms, Super Bowl winners. That's who's in the Giants Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I love.
played 6 years.
Don't take me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I love Saquon Barkley. I love the guy when he's playing for the Giants. He's effort. He's explosive. He's for the time here, he did very well. But he's not a legacy
Should
player.
the Giants have re-signed them, Mac? Answer the question. Should they have re-signed him?
I think they did what I don't think Joe shined. Me, if I was, yes, I would have. It depends on the price too. I mean, I
You
don't.
would have. There you go.
Yes,
I mean,
yes, I
with
would.
the Eagles only,
I would have tried. Go ahead, son.
with the Eagles only paying him $26 million, we see all the time teams re-sign players that have gone elsewhere and bring them back. It's not like far-fetched to think that he still may return to the Giants at another time.
Well, think about it. Jack brings up Saquon's roots in Jersey, New York. He also has got roots in Philadelphia. He went to Penn State. I mean, he was. I mean, he has roots there too. So I mean, it's not like he moved cross country. Am I happy he's with the Eagles? No. In fact, Jack asked me, and I'm going to ask you this question, guys. Would I still root for Saquon Barkley? I said, hell no. He's an Eagle. Why would I root for him? Right. So I'm not gonna lie here. When I was a kid, real young, Fran Tarkin, first quarterback I ever saw, unbelievable, mesmerized me. When he went to play for the Vikings, guess what? The Minnesota Vikings were my second favorite team. Right? I rooted for the Minnesota Vikings. They weren't in our division either, but I rooted for them. But I was a kid then, right? Because that's my first quarterback. That was the guy. Would I root for Eli Manning if he left the Giants? Would I root for him? No. If he went to it, no. I root for the Giants. So I want to ask you guys something. I know a lot of New England Patriot fans rooted for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win the Super Bowl because Tom Brady was a quarterback. I know that for a fact. Sonia, when Cam Newton left for the Patriots, did you root for Did you root for the New England Patriots?
I'm trying to think of what our season looked like then. I don't think so. And I love Cam. He's my favorite athlete. I literally don't think so. I think what happened was once they first of all, they looked so bad even with him. It kind of was a non-factor. Let's be honest. I just remember thinking, thank God he didn't go to an NFC contender. That was my first thought. And then number two, they sucked so freaking bad. I was just like, Cam just needs to come back to Carolina. I don't think I rooted for him, but I will say, not necessarily Cam Newton, but just allow me to plug in the 49ers with Christian McCaffrey. I absolutely rooted for them. Absolutely. All day, you guys, I talked about it during the playoffs and everything. Christian McCaffrey, because he balled all the way out and they looked like solid contenders. Yes. Now, I did want Cam to win some games, but I wasn't rooting like, oh my God, I hope they win it all, blah, blah, blah. No. Christian McCaffrey, yes, I did. I literally was like a 49ers fan for real.
James, you really don't have a lot of history as far as players moving or to other teams and stuff and doing well. If Drew Brees left after the Super Bowl and signed with the Falcons, would you have rooted for the Falcons?
Now I was going to say it depends. So totally, if we're going in division rivals, and I mean one of our most heated rivals with the Falcons, there is no way in hell There's no way in hell. I'd be burning Drew Brees jerseys. Every time I see a picture of him, I'm pretty sure the whole team.
Well, James. Well, let me ask you this, James. What happens if Drew Brees wanted to remain a Saint and they just gave him a contract offer that was small compared to what the Falcons gave, and then he signed with the Falcons, but he wanted to remain a Saint? He didn't. Basically, he was forced to take that offer. You're never forced, I understand, but the money's really too good to turn down. It gave him security. Would you then hold it against Drew Brees?
No, I'd hold it against the Saints ownership and management.
Exactly. That's what I'm doing with the Giants with Saquon Barkley.
I mean,
I
Cam
hold
didn't
it
want
more
to leave.
against
Cam didn't
management.
want
I
to
don't
leave.
hold it against
CMC didn't want to
Saquon
leave.
Barkley.
Great. It's a great question, Jack. So the Falcons are in the playoffs and going to the championship and going to the. Are you rooting for the Falcons all the way with Drew Brees if he left, not because he wanted to, but kind of because he had to?
I would begrudgingly, I would very begrudgingly go for Drew Brees because I could feel it, but because I really can't stand the team. But if it's a situation like that, because especially since I love Drew Brees so much, man, it's just he's not just a football guy; he's a community guy as well. So I would definitely still I would hold my hand up halfway.
Well, James, Max, Sonia, Lion fans rooted for Matthew Stafford when he was playing in the Super Bowl for the Rams because he was one of theirs. They wanted to see him do well. Patriot fans were rooting for Tom Brady,
which I said,
with the Buccaneers. So there's history.
But where that's different now with Matt Stafford, Tom Brady. They played for their teams a long time. They weren't there 5-6 years. They were there 15, 20 years. They were there for a long time. I just can't understand. That's why I don't play fantasy football, guys.
And they didn't go to in-division rivals. Right. That's true. It was a nightmare for Packers fans when Brett Favre went to Minnesota.
I'm gonna tell you, even though they weren't on the face of the franchise, when Ted Ginn Jr. went to the Saints, it made me really despise the Saints more because he was with our Super Bowl run team, number 19, Ted Ginn Jr. for the Panthers, and I cannot for the life of me. Thomas DeCoud from the Falcons came to us. They hated us even more. It's something about when players go within the division and there's a rivalry like the NFC East has. It's even worse.
And they really didn't do that. They didn't do that in the past that much. Now they're starting to do it more with interconference trades and stuff. Jack, Joe Namath doesn't retire, but goes to Buffalo instead of
he went to the Rams for the last.
No, I know. Instead of the Rams, he goes to Buffalo. Do you root for the Buffalo Bills if they go in the playoffs and the Jets don't?
You never know how you're going to feel at the time. We tend to root once in a while for other teams instinctively. We don't know how we feel at the time. I mean, when the games played in the NFL that don't involve the Jets, I sometimes pull for one team more than the other. I don't know why. It's just like something comes over you where you're just pulling for one team. You're pulling for certain players. But to answer your question, I find myself kind of pulling for Sam Darnold with the Vikings. I want to see Sam, former Jet, do well.
Did you pull for him when he was with the Panthers?
Vikings when he plays for them this year.
Did you pull for him?
Not so much, I guess, with the Panthers. I don't remember, but I don't know. Something about the Vikings now. He has, no offense, Sonia, more of a legitimate chance to win.
Okay, wait, hold on. When he was with us, we were winning. Let's be clear. So don't say legitimate. We won like 6 or 7 games in a row with him until he got hurt. So he was legit.
Maybe I wasn't rooting so much for him with the Panthers because I maybe didn't want to see him do so well immediately after leaving the Jets because then it would look like a bad move. And I supported moving on from Sam. I thought he needed to change the scenery. But he's had a couple of, he had another stop with the Niners after he lost the Panthers starting job. Now he has a reprieve with the Vikings. I don't know how long it'll last because they have J.J. McCarthy in the wings, but I kind of like to see him hold J.J. McCarthy off, have a really good year, and then next season the Vikings have to go back to Darnold as the starter. I'd kind of like to see that, I admit. So I'm kind of rooting for him in that sense.
All right. Okay. So
Okay.
Jack is now a kind of a Vikings fan too. I
Right.
can't root for anybody but my team unless they're not in the playoffs, and then NFC. That's me when they get to the Super Bowl. So we'll take an early look at the NFC South. You got the Falcons, of course, one of the biggest moves they pick up. Kirk Cousins, Tampa Bay signs that drop. Jesus God, I can't think his name now.
Baker Mayfield.
Thank you,
They
Baker.
re-signed
Baker. The Saints, that they're rolling it back with Derek Carr and the Carolina Panthers. Well, they're going to see if Bryce Young can get it together this year and maybe win a few more games. So
I root for Bryce Young, believe it or not.
you do because
So,
he does because he wants to be right that he's going to be a
no, I would have taken C.J. Stroud ahead of him in the draft. I said that all along. But I think
Well,
Bryce Young, I predicted, would be a very good quarterback.
That's what I'm saying. That's
why I'm kind of rooting for that prediction to come true.
Right. So
Thank
it really
you,
has
Jack.
nothing to do with Bryce Young. It's about whether his prediction comes true or not. Trust me, Sonia.
Oh,
Okay,
thank you, man.
we're gonna start. We'll start with the Carolina Panther fan here. I want to hear, and don't make me play the Twilight Zone on you. Don't say Carolina's going to win the division. Please.
Okay.
Give me what order you think they're going to finish in and why.
All right. So I really do think that Atlanta's going to claim the division. I mean, the writing's kind of on the wall. They looked really solid last year. And notice I'm saying this with this monotone voice right now. Of course, James and I live in Atlanta, so it's extremely hard to visibly watch it all go down. But I've kind of backed off a little bit because I've now lived here as long as I've lived in the Carolinas. And so by default, I'm a Georgia Peach. So I feel like they're going to win the division. I think it's going to be the same situation we see every season with 1 or 2 games splitting everybody else. And then you're going to have that number 4 position. I don't think that this season is going to be such a difference between the top 3 and the 4th position. I think that the 2 and 3 positions could be interchangeable. We may see Atlanta in the 1st. We may see Tampa in the 1st. It's going to be a close call. I think it's going to come down to whichever one of those 2 teams win between their matchups. And I think that the Panthers actually go up to the 3rd position. And I'm sorry, James, I think the Saints go down to number 4 this particular season. I think Bryce has got to really step up and show that he belongs in the NFL, and he's going to be playing so. And then we got, some good weapons in the draft with Xavier Legette, and those guys are real hyped up. And they have Dan Canales from Tampa Bay, who's a proven winner and a divisional rival, and he knows how to play, and he's coached Baker Mayfield, and he's brought his offensive coordinator with him. I think this is the season that Carolina goes up to the 3, if not number 2 position. So the final order I have, Atlanta, either Carolina or Tampa at 2, either Carolina or Tampa at 3, and then the Saints.
Wow. Okay. Definitely a fan. James, what is your order of the NFC South this year?
Well, first, before we say anything, I was waiting on the Twilight Zone music because that take really deserved it.
Oh, wow. He's saving the music for you for what you're about to say. It's probably going to play throughout.
Okay. I like the Falcons, number 1. Just off paper, it's teetering. I mean, we haven't gotten to the season yet, so we got to see everything that they have on paper has to play out. It has to be successful. They made some great offseason moves. They got Rondale Moore. They got 2 quarterbacks, which is a great thing to have, even if I don't agree with where they picked them. They could have got better on defense, but they still got better. Their offense still like they're going to score a lot of points. They got a returning receiver in Drake London, their tight end Kyle Pitts, and their running back Bijan Robinson. So they look very good on offense. I have to say it. I'm not an apologist or a homer, as my sister might be. But I do think they're good enough to win the division. In number 2, I think we're good enough to repeat as number 2 and potentially beat out the Falcons. Like she said, like Sonia said, it's really going to be tough in between 3 teams. And I have Tampa Bay number 3, but they could easily be number 2.
Play the music now. I know we're
He's gonna play music for both of you.
Carolina improving from last year. Like she said, they won 2 games. They're probably going to win 4, 5, 6 games, but I still have them at the bottom.
All right. Okay.
So
So let's get an unbiased opinion.
And Carolina.
Let's get an unbiased take on the NFC South because Jack, I know it's early, but just from what you see from free agency, the draft, the signings that happened, and from last year, you're going to have to base a little bit off of that. What do you see for the order?
Jack,
My
I don't even pay attention to the NFC South. I don't even know they exist, Mark.
My predictions count as about as much of an exhibition game result at this point in time. They'll become official about a week before the season begins. They're not official now, so there's nothing to hold me to at all. It's just very loose off the top of my head. Falcons were 7-10 the last 3 years. They're going to improve. They're going to improve. They're due for a breakthrough. They finally got a quality quarterback in Kirk Cousins. So I could see the Falcons going from a 7-10 the last 3 years to 10-7, which would put them in a position to win the division. Tampa Bay's intriguing. I mean, I thought they'd been last place last year, yet they won the division. They seem to be doing a little better post Super Bowl than was anticipated. They were 8-9 the year before, but it was good enough to win the division. So Tampa Bay might hover around the 9-8 mark again. I don't know. Tampa Bay got Baker Mayfield some weapons, on offense. They have a good defensive unit. They're intriguing. Like I said, we don't know. We seem to take them always very lightly. So, maybe I see them in the second position. I do see the Saints. Their team I don't know about. Maybe they have a really good year and they go 11-6, but I could also see them going 7-10. I don't have a lot of faith in David Carr, but David Carr is capable of having a good year if everyone else around him has a good year. In Carolina, there'll be some improvement there. Yeah, I mean, they won't be a doormat team. But let's say, they were 2-15. I mean, can they elevate to go 6-11? That would be a good year if they went 6-11. And Bryce Young was showing improvement. So I don't think Carolina's under a lot of pressure, because it's a long season, and if they could win a game here and there and be competitive, and I think the fan base is giving them a pass this year, as long as Bryce Young, is showing development, and they can, win a couple of more games.
That's exactly right. The fan base that's exactly right, Jack. You speaking like you actually know a Panthers fan. We're giving them some grace. All we want to see is some improvements, and we're happy with it. That is like the most 1,000% thing you have ever said on the show.
But the Saint fans aren't that. But the Saint fans have to it's playoffs, and they're not going to be happy.
Exactly.
I really think they could at least get in the playoffs. And if they lose in the playoffs the first game, okay, they made the playoffs. But I think there's not much slack if you're a Saint fan. You can't go 9-8 again and miss the playoffs and be happy with the season, even though the season to me wouldn't be a failure if that happened again. But the Saint fan base, James, correct me if I'm wrong, is going to be pretty unhappy. Anything short of making the playoffs.
That's because we had many years where we had garbage bags over our heads, paper bags, brown paper bag years. And then came along Sean Payton and Drew Brees. And Sonia, we went to one Super Bowl, we won one Super Bowl. You went to two, didn't win two.
Don't go there about the Super Bowl because you know how I feel about New Orleans and that Super Bowl with that sympathy ring that the league gave you guys because y'all were getting over Katrina.
Oh, goodness. Again, we won a Super Bowl. So like, I'm answering Jack's question.
And then you guys sitting around petitions when y'all got beat by the Vikings, saying y'all were robbed, and sending around petitions for the whole league to sign, and then putting up signs in downtown Atlanta during the Super Bowl saying y'all should have been there. So at least we lost it. We took our loss and went home.
There you go. Yeah. Yes. True. So listen. Just as is on the board, Falcons, Tampa Bay, Saints, Carolina. Listen, Kirk Cousins threw more touchdowns, and he was hurt last year, seventh or eighth game, than all the Falcons quarterbacks last year. All of them put together, he threw more touchdowns. That's how much of an upgrade that Kirk Cousins is going to be for Atlanta, right? Atlanta's defense, that's where the key, I think, is going to be, whether they go far in the playoffs or not. I think they take the number one spot. I think Tampa Bay, good defense again. And Baker's okay. It's going to be between them and New Orleans for second. I don't think either one of those make the playoffs this year. Carolina, if they win 3 games or 4 games next year, it's an improvement, right? So I mean, they got nowhere to go.
So y'all can be
they got nowhere to go but up. I mean, listen, if they only win one game next year, you guys could be disappointed, I guess. But listen, you got nowhere to go but up, right? So you got to be happy about that.
I can't wait to be on the show with you guys when we win 10 games straight.
I can't either. Well, I hope I make it. Me and Jack make it that many years when we're on the show and Carolina Panthers.
This season, brother.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm glad you're.
Gotta have hope.
So let's do a little NFL news here. Well, first the Philadelphia story. The Eagles. Brandon Graham says he's retiring after this year. Another one of the older Eagles that were there for the Super Bowls, and talk about a leader on a team, right? I mean, he spent his whole career. He's in his 15th season with the Eagles. 73 sacks, 146 quarterback hits, 21 fumble recoveries. He only made the Pro Bowl 1 year. Maybe an underlooked guy on the Eagles because of their defense. He's like, let's see how many. He's 4th on the Eagles sack list behind Reggie White, Trent Cole, and Clyde Simmons. Pretty good company to be in. But that's another experienced defensive guy that the Eagles will be losing after this year. So,
and he has a legacy play, stripping Tom Brady of the ball in the Super Bowl.
Exactly during the Super Bowl. So I mean, there you go. That's going to be a tough one to overcome. But there's a guy that stuck with a team for 15 years, and he wasn't the highest paid, and he maybe wasn't the highest talked about, most popular, but he was just a steady guy that did his job and did it really well and came up with a big play, like Jack said, in a Super Bowl. Unbelievable. Let's see. Russell Wilson is out with a strained calf. Everybody's making a big deal out of it because Justin Fields is getting the first team snaps and the first day of training camp. Let's not get crazy, guys. I mean, Justin Fields is probably not going to start this year. He shouldn't start this year if they want him to become better. He might be in there for some wildcat offense plays or something like that. Change things up for Russell Wilson, where he can either run or throw. But I think it would be a mistake if Russell Wilson is healthy for him not to start this year. He's an upgrade from Pickett's. They should make the playoffs with that great defense. The additions they made with Russell Wilson there, at least as an average quarterback, maybe a little bit above average now. We're not sure about Justin Fields yet. And I think they would be – go ahead, Sonia.
No, you finish, and then I just want to piggyback on what you were saying, Matt.
Okay, so I think it would be a big mistake rushing them back again. They did it with the Bears, and I don't think if you really want to get him to live up to what his potential might be, you let him sit for a year, let him learn, let him be behind Russell Wilson, and maybe get in every now and then during the game.
I just feel like it's when they brought Justin Fields into that situation, it was just drama across the board for so many reasons. For one, Justin Fields had a roller coaster of a ride with Chicago. He actually did not think he was going to Pittsburgh of all places. In fact, he was on his social medias following the Falcons and had unfollowed the Bears for a while. Then he had actually come out before this whole season and actually went on the record saying he was pleased as being the quarterback of Chicago before that. Then he was out. I think he had some little slight injury, what have you. They bring Russell Wilson in, who people think is Sean Payton related as to his performance. Some of it is, some of it is not. Some of it is just the fact that Russell Wilson is aging. He has been in the league for a while. He is not with Seattle anymore. Like, all of that factors into the Russell Wilson we see now. When Pittsburgh created this scenario from the start, Mike Tomlin went on the record and said it could be either one of them's starting position. He did not want to be quoted a few months back saying he didn't know. So in my opinion, now that Russell Wilson has this slight injury, this is just a small crack in the door for now an opportunity for Justin Fields to be the starting quarterback. It's still up in the air, and all they're waiting on is an opportunity to be like, oh, Russell, we gave you a chance. Because let's be honest, Denver is still paying Russell's salary. So Pittsburgh is coughing up pennies right now. They don't have to put him out there. They just have him on there. We could be looking at a reversal where Justin Fields is the starting quarterback and Russell Wilson is the backup quarterback. So it could go either way. I think we need to remember that situation when we're looking at him now out here taking snaps as opposed to Russell being out here.
Well, Mike Tomlin will make a football decision. He's not going to feel under any pressure. And I think Mike Tomlin is smart enough to see the situation with Justin Fields. I mean, the best thing that could happen to Russell Wilson maybe would be to miss a few games. So then the fans are going to see Justin Fields isn't the answer. He's still a developmental quarterback. He's got some potential. He's not going to come in and take over and be a franchise quarterback for the Steelers. It's not going to happen. But as long as Justin Fields is the backup and Russell Wilson starts struggling a little bit, the fans are going to call for Justin Fields. And it's a case of be careful what you wish for. He's got some potential. Maybe he can be a good quarterback someday, but I wouldn't count on it.
You know, James, when I look at a quarterback body, first of all, body work, easily Russell Wilson. Experience, easily Russell Wilson, right? But when you look at a quarterback, I look at a guy who's fairly accurate, who knows how to call audibles, knows how to read defenses, knows how to make quick decisions, right? And because of experience. Justin Fields has never got that opportunity. And I'm with Jack. I don't know what Justin Fields is going to be. I mean, listen, we don't know. We've seen flashes of him. Unbelievable running plays, getting out of the pocket, running for touchdowns. We've seen a cannon arm once in a while. I think he threw for 280 yards one game, or maybe 300 yards one. We've seen some glimpses, but we saw glimpses of Daniel Jones too. We've seen him throw for almost 400 yards. We've seen him run 90 yards for a touchdown or run for 3 touchdowns. Daniel Jones is not a franchise quarterback. So, I mean, I think that anybody who says Justin Fields, and I don't think Mike Tomlin is going to do this, should start opening day and will play if even if there's a little bit of a hiccup in the Pittsburgh's offense and they don't look good. I think they're fooling themselves. He is not ready to be a starting quarterback, especially with a good team, because he could be the reason why they lose. Russell Wilson probably is not going to be the reason why they lose. Justin Fields could be, with an interception, a fumble, a bad read, a bad play, could be the reason why the Pittsburgh Steelers lose.
Mike Tomlin is a championship coach. He comes from championship pedigree. He's won a couple Super Bowls, and he got a guy for pennies, like Sonia said. And you're going to use this guy. You're going to use it, who also has championship pedigree. He won a Super Bowl, been to another one. They could have won a second one. So I'm not going to take the guy that you get from Chicago that was inconsistent. Mind you, he had bad offensive line, maybe not the greatest team to be around, but still, the facts are there. I'm going to put the guy that has the history of the championship pedigree in line first. And even Mike Tomlin even said he's in pole position to be the starter. So a little calf tightness in his right calf. Of course, you're going to play the other guy and give him his first team reps because you want to be prepared in the situation that this guy, Russell Wilson can't play. So we got to play Justin Fields. But I'm 100% of the mindset thinking that Russell Wilson is going to be the starter, especially for the amount of money they have and the history and, like you said, the experience that he has as well. He's going to be the starter. And of course, if he doesn't do well, you have another guy that backs him up that can come in and play.
Bad idea.
Well, there's another issue involved too with Justin Fields this year. It's his 4th year. And at the end of the season, the Steelers are going to have to make a decision whether to pay him big quarterback money. And I can't see for the life of me, even if Justin Fields comes in and he has a good year, he's not going to have a great year. It's not going to happen. But if he has a good year, I can't see them making him anywhere close to being one of the top 5 paid quarterbacks in the league. He's not going to get that type of money. He's not that good. They would maybe offer him a 2-year deal along the lines of what the Giants offered Daniel Jones and the Bucs offered Baker Mayfield. But they're going to have to deal with his contract situation. And is Justin Fields really going to be in demand to sign a big deal elsewhere? I don't think the other team's that high on him because the Bears would have gotten more than a 3rd-round draft choice if he was really that good. What did they get, a 4th that could turn into a 3rd? That's not much for a guy, who's potentially a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, I think he's a ways away. I think it's a mistake if they rush him back, even if Russell Wilson has a couple bad games and you throw him in there and he has problems. I think you got to build this kid's confidence. I think you got to work with him.
It's his 4th year, Mac.
Listen, I don't care, Jack. I'm saying, well, it wasn't done right in Chicago, Jack. Obviously, if you want this kid to be your franchise, if you have any thought that you want to go forward with this kid, you got to work with this kid, and you don't put him in and have him fail. And worse, if he does good, you don't want a quarterback controversy because when you got 2 quarterbacks, you got no quarterback.
Mac, you forget it, Chicago. When they drafted him, they made Andy Dalton the starter. He was carrying the clipboard. They didn't rush him in. They had a terrible offensive line when he started playing.
There was a lot more. We talked about that, Jack. There was a lot more to it than that. Andy Dalton, the other quarterback, that quarterback room was on fire. They had problems there.
Because of Justin Fields.
The offensive coordinator and the head coach did not control that. And it was just terrible. The coach of Chicago has been terrible for the last, 6-7 years. But anyway. Yeah, you got that right. So let's see. Raider players out there making fun of Pat Mahomes with a Kermit the Frog doll.
Yes, I love it. I always say he is Kermit.
I think that's poking the bear. I don't know.
I love it. He is freaking Kermit. Gonzo.
A guy who's went to 4 Super Bowls in the last 5 years. Oh, they're really giving it to him good. Man, keep making fun of him, okay? He's accomplished more than that whole team combined. Come on.
In the last 4 years, very
he does
very
look
well
like
said.
one of Jim Henson's Muppets. He does. I've always said it. And he talks like him too.
He does sound like the guy. Yes, he does. The puppet.
You guys, we're gonna go out there. We're gonna win it in the Super Bowl. Detroit Lions lose their kicker for the year. Michael Bagley. You don't have a good kicker. Playoffs come along. You can lose the game because of that. So it is significant, even though a lot of people wouldn't think it is. I think it is special teams, especially a kicker. Anyway, so we do have time today. I don't know. Let's see if we have time. I want to do a couple quick updates here that happened. Let's see. Last night we did have the Phillies blowing out the pitcher as a complete game shutout. They went 8-0.
Bryce Harper and Schwarber both go deep. So the Phillies get the pitching and they destroy. Let me see if I can get the right team that they were playing against. They were playing against. Well, they won anyway. So there you go. Houston beats the Los Angeles Dodgers 7-6. Houston playing really good ball. Bad beginning. They're up near the top now, threatening to win the playoffs. Yankees and Red Sox go at it. 10-8, the Yankees win with a bunch of home runs being hit last night. I made a prediction that the Red Sox would end up in second place ahead of the Yankees this year by the end of the year, and I'm a big Yankees fan, but I just think the Yankees still have a lot of holes to fill, and Boston is playing some unbelievable baseball right now. Let's see, Wembanyama, they win their first game over there in Greece, leading them for in the Olympics. So they won their first game. So Wembanyama doing his thing over there with Greece.
By the way, you predicted the Red Sox would come in third behind the Orioles and the Yankees. But I'm going to give you that leeway. You said you predicted they'd come in second. We'll give you that prediction now.
Yes.
Well, we're going to say that you predicted.
I've updated. I said they would finish third to the Yankees and Orioles.
Oh.
Now I'm saying they're gonna end up finishing second. So that's my all-star break.
But you won the money. They've been having on balance a surprisingly good year, and you did call it.
Thank you very much. Any other news before I get to this last segment that I've been holding off on? Any other news that anybody wants to bring up, some updates or anything?
Well,
Harrison Butker is putting his foot in his mouth again.
Okay.
What did he say?
This time he mocked the so not getting political or religious or anything, but he mocked the U.S. Olympian competitors. You know, they have a couple transgender people in there, and Harrison Butker said that it was, you know, a mockery, that they were trying to mimic the Lord's Supper in one of their photos. And he was saying God is not mocked. So once again, you know, he's putting his spiritual take out there. You know, last time he had something to say about women and their place in the world and where they should be in the kitchen to the graduates.
Well, he's not in the Olympics, so I don't want to talk about, you know.
He's not. But
I want to talk about but I do want to talk about
the Kansas City Chiefs player that is putting his perspective out there, Jack. So I'm saying he's putting his foot in his mouth again.
Well, before Jack gets to his Olympic story there, I think any transgender, and I'll put my foot in my mouth too, any transgender athlete that's competing in the Olympics should be kicked out because that's unfair to women.
They should not be, right.
So I'll put my foot in my mouth too. There should be no transgender women, men competing.
It's not the same. Even without all the other. Even without all the other stuff, it's not fair across the board. Just if you just remove all the other moral thoughts and stuff like that out of it, it's still not fair. These people are not on the same competition level. Like, absolutely. I have my own morals about it, but just like everybody just knows, it's not an equal competition.
All right.
Yeah, I think we all agree on that. But with the Olympics yesterday, I was watching some of it. I saw the basketball competition. The U.S. isn't a lock to win it. I saw France come back, beat Canada. When you look at France's front line, Wembanyama and Gobert, okay, and even a player like Evan Fournier, who's now on the Pistons, who was glued to the bench with the Knicks, was a good player when he went to the Knicks. Thibodeau didn't like his game. He got some run with the Pistons. If he plays well, and Wembanyama is, to me, going to be one of the all-time greats when all is said and done, and he's only going to get better and better and better. And he showed it yesterday. And if Rudy Gobert shows up, the U.S., I'm going to tell you, they're going to have to play well. They're really going to have to play well to win the gold medal. This is far from a gimme.
And this is where, to me, there's a distinct difference between the Dream Team in 1992 versus when the first year they allowed superstar NBA players to play versus the rest of the league. I mean, the rest of the world, that wasn't all that great. Now, all the stars internationally are the biggest stars in the NBA. So it's much more competitive now. It's a lot more competitive to you see. I mean, it is. It's just what it is. I mean, those guys are blowing everybody out. Now you got Giannis, you got Wembanyama, you got Luka. He's not playing, but still. And Joker. These guys they're stars in the NBA. They're stars in the NBA. So it's good. And they have good players on their teams, respectively, that are playing in different leagues in their different countries. So it's hard. So my take is I wouldn't be surprised that USA wins, and I won't be surprised if they lose. It's just how good it is.
That's not a take. That's not a take. That's just saying
We don't know the
That's not a
chemistry
take.
with the USA.
Let me give you a take. First of all, the United States Olympic team has not always won gold. They've won silver and bronze twice in their history, and a couple of them have been pretty recently. So they haven't always just dominated. If you want to count as many years as it's been, yes, they have. The United States has a probably better bench than most teams out there. Okay, so when you name 3 players, I can name 10. And I've been ridiculing the United States team for a lot of reasons. But to say that because 3 players are one team are big stars, we can give you 10 players in the NBA that are big stars too. So I don't really believe that that's the reason. I believe the reason is because they play together all the time. And that's why these other teams have advantages. I won't even talk about the stars. I mean, Germany, who's the biggest star in the Germany team? Exactly.
No, I know who it is. It's the kid from he plays in the league. I forgot his name. He played with LeBron James. He played for Boston.
Exactly.
But my point is,
this is what I'm saying.
We're also old.
I know I've been critical of U.S. team. I have. I'm not saying I haven't. But all I'm saying is let's not get carried away. All of a sudden, because teams got 3 great players against 10 great players. So it depends how they're coached. And, of course, they've been playing together. A lot of these teams have been playing together for years. They've been playing since they were kids on professional teams. Playing professional.
France beat Brazil. Did I say Canada?
That's okay. Canada did win. But anyway.
RJ Barrett did a great job sparking Canada to a win over Greece.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
Giannis's team loses, that game.
Yes. So again, the point is, I've been highly critical. I think they should have took younger players, 2 other ones that would have been more impactful, would gave more energy, blah, blah, blah. I've said all that. But let's not get crazy with this. Let's not all say, well, France is gonna beat the United States or Canada. Let's not get crazy yet. Let's be calm here. I think the United States wins the gold again. Maybe not easily, but they win the gold again. I think they got a better overall team than any team in the tournament right now. How's that?
Well, you got to consider when the NBA season ends, there's not that much time before the Olympics. So what are you supposed to do at the start of the playoffs? Set up training camp and wait for players to join you from the teams that get eliminated? It's hard to form a team that way. It really is.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. I do agree with that. So I don't know if we have enough time to do this or not, but I'm going to give you a list of the 5 most dominant teams, of the 50 most dominant teams in NFL history. And it's pretty interesting. I mean, it's something that that we can talk about. This is coming from the Bleacher Report. So the number 1 most dominant team in NFL history, and this doesn't mean like there's a lot of different ways you can be a dominating team. Their first team is the 1989 San Francisco 49ers. Of course, you think of their offense, you think of Montana, you think about Rice. Taylor was with them then. Roger Craig was with them then. Their tight end. Yes. The fullback was Tom Rathman. Right. But they don't think about their defense. They had a number 3 defense, a top 3 defense that year. where they had Charles Haley. They had Romanowski with them. They had Matt Millen was their middle linebacker, Keena Turner, Ronnie Lott. They had a very good team, one of the best records.
Legendary coach and Bill Walsh.
There you go. So, I mean, that is their number one most dominant team in NFL history. You could argue that, and it's a good argument, right? I would say that's a good argument. Number two is a little different. It's the Canton Bulldogs from 1921 who didn't lose a game in 25 consecutive games in 2 years. Now, I don't know a lot about the Canton Bulldogs, but listen, I just don't know what to say. But that's their number two team. Of all the teams in the history of football, that's their number two team. I would disagree with that. Number three team in there is the 1976 Oakland Raiders.
Oh,
Now,
wow.
the Raiders at that time had Kenny Stabler, Fred Biletnikoff, Dave Casper. They had Cliff Branch. Defense, they had John Matusik. They had
You skipped one. You skipped one.
Oh, I'm
They're
sorry.
number 4.
They're number 4. My bad. That's number 4. Number 3 was the Patriots. The Patriots, the losing team, the 16-0 Patriots that lost to the Giants in the Super Bowl. That is their number 3. And of course, they had a lot of great players on that team. Tom Brady, Gronk. You had a defense, Teddy Bruschi, and you had a great defense there too. But the Giants beat them in the Super Bowl. So is that a dominating team? That is arguable to me, right? I mean, there's so many teams that were dominant that won the Super Bowl, and there are a lot of Patriots teams in the top 50. Would that be your number 3 team, Jack? With all the great teams in history, would the 16-0 Patriots that lost the Super Bowl be in your top 5?
Well, keep in
Sorry,
mind,
are the Panthers not in there for our 15-1 run? Are we not in that ranking at all?
They're not in the top 50. Go ahead, Jack.
Oh, that's crazy. We were the high number. Okay, wow. These polls.
Yeah, I didn't make the list.
well, the
Go ahead,
Vikings
Jack.
were 15-1, and they got eliminated in an NFC Championship game. Too, when Randall Cunningham was the quarterback. Keep in mind, these teams, when they went to a longer schedule from 14 to 16 games, they had to win a couple of more games. You have to kind of keep that in mind. And, a team's expected to finish the job. That's why Dan Marino, who you can make an argument and say, I think Dan Marino is the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. He never finished the job, as a Super Bowl winner. So you can't quite rate him up there because of that. I'm not sure what you do with a team like that. Look, the Russians who lost to the United States in the Olympics, Russians had a much better team. It wasn't even that close. But for one game, the USA got the breaks. They were outshot. Everything fell the USA's way. And they played well, the USA. And they beat them for one game. But no one's going to think they were really a better team.
So we're running out of time. I'm going to give you the next 2 was the 1970s. We'll talk about it more next week. The 1976 Raiders, very mean, very tough team. Number 5 was the 1986 New York Giants. The Jets were not in the top 50. Neither were the Panthers. The Saints did make an appearance in the top 50. We'll talk about that more next week.
The Giants were more dominant than the 85 Bears.
85 Bears and the Baltimore Ravens were 5 and 6. We'll debate it more later. I got to get out of here under 2 hours, but it's going to be a fun debate. And I'll say they were more dominant than 85 Bears. Have a great day, everybody. Enjoy your Sunday, and all the shows coming up next on Roku. We'll see you soon.
See you soon.